Yeah, we're here today with Ross Houck. And where are you from, Ross?
Geneva.
Geneva, Nebraska.
Yep.
And Ross tried a couple of our zipper all-cast closing wheels last year, and he really liked them. And I'd like to have you explain what you were doing and what you saw, the difference. And he's here today. He's buying the rest of the 24-row John Deere. What planter do you have him on?
1770 and T.
Okay,
Yep.
right, neat.
So,
So kind of explain what you saw with these, working with these.
the biggest thing I saw first off was I had them up against, I had the rest of my rows were one Dawn, one rubber, and then I had some rows one rubber and one Martin. And I was planting soybeans on the ridge till after a root slicer. And I noticed with these, first off, I needed a lot less down pressure to get that. This furrow closed.
Yep.
And it would crumble it a lot better. And those other ones, it seemed like they were just poking the ground. I mean, conditions weren't ideal by any means. Mm-hmm. And so, then the biggest thing, so that was the biggest thing. And after we got going and started to get them to emerge, I noticed these two rows, I had these on, the slot stayed closed. But the rest of the rows, it got hot and they opened it up and the beans were pushing chunks. And so I run the pivot, but if I would have had all these, I wouldn't have
had to run the pivot.
Run it all.
I'll be darned.
But and we got some pretty tough clay soils, and and these really shined in that soil.
And you got a hot, windy day probably
Yes.
after you planted.
Yep.
And then
And
everything
just broke open, and they were pushing chunks and breaking their necks off, So, and so that was the biggest thing I've seen. From what I've seen, they're working really good in our tough soils and everything else.
A lot of farmers say that this kind of rototills the soil in around the seed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it compacts it, leaving it compacted, and then as it exits the soil, it releases the, this is the way it'd be on the right-hand side, and it would release the soil as it comes off, so it doesn't, like a straight finger wheel, a lot of times, it will stab the soil, and then as it's exiting, it lifts the soil, re-loosens, so you can get some drying out effect when you're planting.
Exactly. And sometimes if it's a little bit damp, those ones with the long fingers will just poke holes in the ground and they won't close like you want them to. And so that was the biggest thing I saw.
Neat.
But
and we really appreciate your business and thank you a lot.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.